Hello, welcome to Stretford Paddock. I'm joined by Stephen Howson. We've just watched Manchester United draw 0-0 with Manchester City. Give me your overall thoughts on that game. Are you disappointed? Decent point? Or do you just think bit of lack of invention there from United?
I felt like they were there for the taking. It was one of the worst City performances I've seen, certainly at Old Trafford and in any match that we've played with them for a while. I know we had personnel missing, and I know we've got probably Marcus carrying an injury, Martial's out of form, Pogba's in and out of the team. Mason's not in top form. It isn't the ideal time to really get in there and get amongst them. It just feels like the opportunity was there, though. And it feels like you're probably not going to get a better chance to put City away than that. And we completely nullified them, / they didn't really offer anything worthy. But it didn't feel like we ever really tested them. We created some chances, but they weren't proper good chances. There weren't loads of opportunities where you go, oh, we definitely should have battered them then. We created a couple, they created a couple, but on the large part, it was a pretty non-eventful game, really. And that's just a bit sad. And I wonder, is the impact of that because the last time we played them at Old Trafford, the fans were there, it was mint, and the stark contrast of that between the occasional journalist coughing. Did the game reflect why fans are so important at derbies and stuff?
Yeah, probably. I think of all the games, those sorts of big occasion games, those games when you just, and again, people talk about passion. People almost talk about it like it's a bad thing. But I think when it's coming from the crowd toward the game,
do you remember the first
carries people, that
20,
drives
30
players.
seconds? It was like a little bit, like we tried a couple of weird things.
What's going on here? Yeah.
Like the crowd would have gone nuts, been right on top of them, and you might have seen a reaction. But instead, you've just got like the occasional ball boy looking at people like, all right.
So he talked about how...
They're not even ball boys, are they? Because they're not allowed.
No, just the ball cone. Yeah, we talked about how we nullified City or how they weren't that good. I personally thought, and I know you've been you've criticised him quite a bit. I thought Luke Shaw was excellent or pretty good, and I thought Harry Maguire in particular was excellent defensively. Do you think United after the midweek game, after the game, where in recent weeks where we've been down in every single game for I think 6 games in a row away, and then obviously the Leipzig game included in that? Do you think United just sort of went, right, we need to not concede here? Because if we do, we ain't getting back. We saw what happened in midweek. Do you think United almost shut up shop? And if you do think that, do you think that was a smart decision? It's the sort of performance when Jose Mourinho does it, people call it a tactical masterclass. Yeah. When Ole does it, Ole doesn't know how to get chances against Man City.
Yeah, well, I think on the first point, I do think Luke Shaw had a good game. My issue is people act like that's how he plays every week, and it absolutely isn't. But today he had a good game, and I don't mind saying he had a good game. I thought he didn't really offer a lot going forward, but defensively, he was pretty solid. He was pretty sound. He still has some weird positionings.
Yeah.
But by and large, you can't really fault, especially when you keep a clean sheet, you can't really fault anything defensively today. Do I think that it was a decision to try and be overtly defensive? No, and I think that people are going to try and paint this as we parked the bus. We didn't. We struggled getting out of our half with the ball. We struggled penetrating through midfield. City had like a very high block. It wasn't a press, it was a block. They marked a lot of our players in the top half of the pitch, very similar to what they did in the League Cup. Not as effective because we didn't have Phil Jones. But they still managed to see. The same issue that I saw in the League Cup game was that it would go back to De Gea and you'd be like, now what? And there wasn't many options.
You talk about the difference between the block and the press. One difference maybe would be that Maguire and Lindelof were allowed quite a lot of time on the ball. It's when they tried to play that ball through. Yeah. Does it worry, though, that we saw a similar thing against Arsenal, where we pass it around the back, we can't get it through. We saw a similar thing against Chelsea, certainly in the first half. I think we pushed on a bit in the second half. The Tottenham game was all over the place, pure disaster. But against these bigger teams, United, are we a bit easy to figure out?
Yeah.
Does that worry you?
And yeah, it does. Because I think that the option to play through that is usually sitting on the bench in those games, and that's Donny van der Beek. That's a player that can take a ball on a half turn. That's a player who can take a ball under pressure and advance it up the pitch. Fred cannot do that for all his faults and for all the stuff that he's had that's been positive going forward. McTominay absolutely cannot do that. I thought we could have utilised Pogba a little bit better, like very much how we utilised Fellaini in the Stockholm Cup final against Ajax. the guy that we go to escape Ajax's press, which is very similar to the press that we see from, or press or block that we see from the likes of these. When they mark all of our playmakers coming out of the back, you have to go direct. Manchester United struggle to go direct because Rashford's not great in the air, Mason's not great in the air, Bruno's not great in the air. So who's your guy that's going to hold it up? And Jose's solution to that was to have Marouane Fellaini. Ole hasn't yet found that solution. I honestly think that's a role Pogba could utilise. And I mentioned a bit more rotation with the players. You don't have to stick to your formation. If we say, right, when we're struggling playing out the back, well, Marcus, you're a waste up front because we're not going to knock it to you and you're not going to win it in the air. Why don't you come out, come deeper, and you can actually get involved with a build-up play because Marcus is 1-2 and give and goes phenomenal. He's got amazing footwork. Pogba, why don't you get a bit further up? Because you're actually a fucking right specimen and you can actually hold it up and you can hold... You see how many times with Pogba just one-arming someone off like they're a child. Pogba could do that. And I think that is a criticism you can actually level at Ollie. He gets a lot of unfair criticism, but I think that's one that you can level at him. I think our set pieces, defending and attacking, you can level at coaching as well. Some things aren't coaching and people just wrongly attribute it, but that I think you can absolutely utilise the physical attributes you've got in Paul Pogba to be able to escape that press if you can't play through it. It'd be better to have both options. It'd be better to be able to have sometimes a Donny van de Beek comes short, pulls it, he knocks it along the floor to Rashford and we're away. It'd be also good that you don't do that every time. You want to be able to, you don't want to set patterns when you're playing out. You want to be able to go, we're doing this. And then the opposition go, I know what they're doing. And then you do something different. They go, fuck's sake, I know what they're doing. And then you change it again. And that's what you're supposed to do. So you make it difficult for the opposition to figure out what you're trying to do. United at the moment, I know they're going to pass it from Wan-Bissaka to Lindelof to Maguire to Shaw. And I know Shaw's going to pass it right back to Maguire. And then it's probably going to come back. And then De Gea's going to find his way with it. And you go,
chuck it up.
Fucking hell, lads. Because there's no penetration. We saw it against Leipzig. We saw it today against Manchester City. And I don't necessarily think it's a coaching issue. I think it's a personnel issue. And I think if you did play Donny van de Beek, he's the kind of guy that can collect it in those deep areas and advance it up the pitch. 0-0's not a bad result. No one should be kicking off with this. It keeps us ahead of Manchester City. We're 7th in the table. I know everyone's about to play their games all around us this weekend, so we're probably going to drift off. But as it stands, we've played 11, top of the table's played 11, and we're 4 points off the top of the table, having just played Manchester City, and they are below us. This isn't a bad position to be in, right? Fergie said he wanted to always be within touching distance. This is for a title charge. You want to be in touching distance of the top around Christmas. Well, guess what, fuckface? We are within touching distance of the top for the first time in a long time. It ain't perfect, and it's a wild-ass season, but I'd rather be here than where we've been in previous seasons.
Very nice. I think that's a great way to end it. Cheers for joining us here on Stretford Paddock. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. 0-0 isn't a great result, a great performance necessarily, but is it maybe the sort of performance United need to be able to grind out a little bit more often to stop that drift, like you said, staying near the top of the table towards Christmas? Is it actually a decent result? Make sure you subscribe to Stretford Paddock if you aren't already. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you in a bit.